Hello, 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 and welcome to our episode 3 of Getting Rooted, the show that's all about the journey of being rooted, reclaiming one's own truth, and embracing destiny. I am Janine Hansel Frimpong, your host, and I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor and a trauma specialist in the state of Maryland. I am also the founder and clinical director of Rooted Holistic Therapeutic Services. The content of this podcast is not counseling advice nor a substitute for individual therapy. The content is for information purposes only. The information provided is not intended to be used as a replacement for medical and mental health advice. Please seek and follow the advice of your licensed mental and medical health professional. When we talk about holistic mental health, we talk about the whole person. Reiki is one tool to help address the whole person. If you're new to Reiki, you may be wondering what it is and what it's all about. Or maybe you've heard some things about it and you're not sure if it's for you. How about restorative yoga? Restorative yoga is becoming one of the most popular forms of practice, and we have an expert here today to tell us all about it. In this podcast episode, I have a guest, Carrie Dennison, who is a yoga teacher, Reiki Master, and supporter of all things self care. She'll be joining us today to talk about how to experience healing through Reiki and restorative yoga. So, if you ever wonder if there's more you can do to support your mental health, keep listening. Well, welcome, Carrie. How are you today?
I'm doing well today. Spring is on its way and the sun is shining. Sat outside for a bit this morning to feel the warmth of the sun on my face. So it's good day so far.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a weird winter here in Maryland. Like Maryland's weird anyway.
Yes.
With the seasons, you never know what you're gonna get. But it's been a really mild winter. Everybody else is getting like blizzards everywhere, and we are here in the sunshine having 80-degree weather every so often. 60-degree. It was wonderful yesterday. I loved
Yes.
it. So I'm all for it.
Me too. Me too. I'm ready to kind of crawl out of the hibernation of winter. Nice and slow,
Absolutely.
of course.
Absolutely. And I'm glad I didn't take out all my winter clothes because I would be definitely disappointed. But it is what it is. So tell us a little bit about Carrie and her business and all the things that you bring to the table and your expertise of why you're here today.
Yeah. So my name's Carrie Dennison, and I run my own wellness business called Self Care with Carrie. And I started Self Care with Carrie like informally, probably about 6 years ago. I've been teaching yoga and practicing Reiki for 7 years, and was kind of doing some of that stuff part-time as I was navigating lots of challenges in the corporate world. And in September of 2019, I decided to leave the corporate world to dedicate a good chunk of time to building this business and really like serving my community the way that I feel like I'm meant to be.
Awesome.
Yeah, my passion of bringing people together and helping people kind of met, and this business was formed. So I really, really enjoy just creating a space for people to kind of quiet the noise of the outside world a bit, so that they can come into deeper relationship with themselves and into deeper relationship with the things that really matter to them. I think that there's so much pressure to do all the things, even in like the wellness world, right? We got to like do the nutrition thing. We got to do the exercise thing. We got to do the spiritual thing. And it's like
It's
really
a
all of
lot.
that can kind of just come under one umbrella when we connect with what's really important to ourselves. And I think that each individual in this world has a special gift to offer. And if we don't take care of ourselves, we cannot offer that gift sustainably. And I think like the world needs us to be sharing our gifts.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think, we take for granted ourselves. And what
Yeah.
I mean by that, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We just say, "Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow." And we don't take the time to breathe and be present and do all the things that you just talked about. Like, the whole person dealing with all these parts. We may deal with one part, like I'm gonna eat healthy or I'm gonna exercise, but there's other parts that are lacking. And that's why we can't really get the wellness or the wholeness that we're looking for, because something's always lacking. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And as you know, working in the trauma world, this stuff lives in our body. Our life experiences live in our body. So, it's not just, okay, go to the therapist and get some mental health support. It's like, do that. Um, and also, like taking care of where that stuff is in the body, because, we can come into these mindful moments and be here in the present. But for a lot of people, what's here in the present is what has already happened to them. So to be able to address all those parts of ourselves, the younger parts, the parts that are still kind of holding on for dear life, and
yeah.
nourishing them as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. I like to give the analogy of if you're, a therapist can be equated not because of licensing or skills or whatever, but it's equated to when you go to the doctor for an issue, right? You're addressing issue, but there's work that you have to do outside of the doctor's office to really address it. So the doctor will give you, like, you may want to, go do exercise, or you may want to take this medication, or you may want to, see this specialist to deal with this part because it seems like it's impacting this. And that's the same thing with therapy. Like, you don't get all your answers in therapy. Um, there's other places to really seek that wellness and that wholeness and addressing the whole person. So I'm excited about this journey that you've been on, and I'm excited to hear more about the healing through Reiki. So tell us a little bit about what is Reiki exactly.
So to me, Reiki is healing. Reiki is love. Reiki is magic. Um, that answer isn't always enough for everyone. People are like, "Excuse me, what?" Like, that sounds like some crazy stuff. But really, so Reiki comes from the Japanese culture. And if you break down the word, Rei means universal and Ki means life force. So it's really just the universal life force that moves through all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So in yoga philosophy, we talk about prana, which is basically life force. In Chinese medicine tradition, they talk about qi or ki. Same thing. It's the life force. It's in everything. It's in, humans, it's in animals, it's in plants, it's even in inanimate objects too.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens with Reiki is it's just a way of channeling the life force through you, right? We get stuck, we get these blockages in life, whether it's like a physical blockage or an emotional blockage, and or even like our minds get blocked, right? We try to like remember something, or we're trying to connect to different parts of ourselves, and the mind, it can only go so far. And what Reiki does is create a space to you work together with your practitioner. You can also do self Reiki, but the work that I do, like we kind of work together along the lines of the chakras. We talked a lot about like the whole person. So the chakra system is one way to look at ourselves holistically. Each chakra matches up to different physical, emotional, mental parts of ourselves, spiritual parts of ourselves.
Mhm. Mhm.
And, we work to see where those blockages are to help create a space to open up so that things can start flowing. You can get some more clarity. You can create a little more peace in certain situations.
Yeah, definitely. I know in some of my work and doing trauma, the chakras come up and we recognize those block areas and really working through those emotional places and those blockage through just doing EMDR. So I'm glad there's other options or avenues that people can use to really get, and doing EMDR is where I really recognize like how our body is really connected with our emotions and why, sometimes we have symptomologies that it's like, why am I always having stomach out problems? Or, why am I feeling all this pressure on my chest? So I think recognizing like our whole body is connected. It is a machine that continues to, it speaks to each other and we're not listening sometimes. A lot of times. Most of
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah. I loved when you started the podcast and you said keep listening. And I thought of like, yeah, that's what we need to do for ourselves is keep listening to ourselves, listening to the messages from the body. We're often just run from one thing to the next, and we don't take time to notice how something impacted us.
Mm-hmm.
So we end up in these spaces. I'll speak for myself. I've ended up in these spaces where I'm like, I am so stressed. I am so anxious. And I don't even know what the heck about, because I haven't taken the time to notice what in my life is impacting me in a certain way. So, if anything, Reiki is just a space for an individual to listen. And in the case where you're in a session with a practitioner, someone else is listening with you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's like really powerful too, is like not being in it alone.
Getting that support and that feedback. So, kind of tell us what happens during a Reiki session.
Yeah, so lots of stuff can happen.
Mm.
um how a Reiki session would look is I have somebody come into my space and I have a massage table set up, so lying down on the massage table, and I set up a space that's real relaxing, so often soft music, as long as my client is okay with that. I'll either have the lights more dim, or sometimes clients prefer to have the sunlight coming through. We'll have cleanse the space with some sage, just to kind of create a clear, energetic space before someone enters. I'll guide someone into relaxation, usually via a breathwork practice or a little visualization, just kind of like a body scan to help welcome them into the space.
Mhm.
And Reiki's done by me. I tend to do hands-on touch, real light
Mhm.
touch, just kind of placing my hands on someone's body, no force. And we work generally, unless I know that I'm working through a specific something with someone. I'll usually start at the head. We'll work into the crown chakra and go all the way down. We'll do some stuff around the throat chakra, hands on shoulders or heart space, tends to the heart chakra. I'll
Mhm.
place my hands on the belly in the area of like the ribs for solar plexus. We'll go down to the sacral chakra, hands on the low belly. We'll work on the legs for the root chakra. And again, just kind of this space of listening, noticing how someone's breath might shift when we work into certain areas of the body, or how they might even kind of like disengage.
Mm.
Sometimes someone can be real present in a session, and then we're going down into the legs, and it's like they've fallen asleep.
Mm.
It was, for some reason, sometimes it's hard for people to stay connected to certain areas of the body.
Hmm.
Um, Most of the time, people leave feeling quite relaxed and at peace. What happens during the session sometimes doesn't feel quite peaceful. Sometimes memories can come up that
Mm.
are difficult to deal with. I've had someone basically realize while they were in a session with me that they're afraid of the dark, and that was like such a cause of so much of their anxiety.
Wow.
I've had people on the table, have moments of connection with someone in their life that has passed on.
Hmm.
Um, I've had people in a session, I'm channeling Reiki and I'm like holding their foot, and they have some kind of realization of like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this action with my foot, which is causing this particular suffering in my life, whether it's like, like physical pain.
Mhm.
So, really like the the options are endless of what could happen in a session. And I think it's all about like what someone's intention is and what parts of yourself you're looking to explore.
So before they go on the table, you kind of discuss the plan or what they really want to address.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Thanks
mhm,
for asking that. So I offer basically I've transformed my business to offer like self-care sessions. I was before it was like, okay, you could come for Reiki or you could come from yoga or you could come for breath work, and usually someone has an intention. But
mhm,
sometimes I find once I sit down and chat with someone for a few minutes, like maybe Reiki isn't what they want to start with that
mhm,
particular day. Maybe, they're not ready to sit still. I've had clients that come in and they're kind of unloading, letting me know what's happening and why
mhm,
they're here, and they can't sit still. And I'm like, okay, probably your nervous system isn't quite ready to lie down
mhm,
yet.
mhm,
So, we'll get up, we'll do a little movement, whether it's like a yoga flow or some qigong, or we'll just kind
mhm.
of like shake things out a little bit, and to slowly start to walk the nervous system down to prepare them to lie down.
Okay.
So, a little chit chatting before a session, usually about an hour to 75 minutes of hands-on time on the table,
Okay.
and then usually another few minutes afterwards to discuss anything that came up, for them to ask me questions, for me to disclose anything that may have come up from my intuition in the session.
Mhm. Okay. And so after the session, like what, you have that conversation. Is there a follow-up session? Do you make recommendations? What happens afterwards?
Yeah, I like to kind of leave that up to my client of
Mhm,
what they feel like is best for them. I've had clients that if they're dealing with something pretty big or pretty heavy, will come and see me once a week for a
mhm,
while. In general, most of my clients come either every other week, once a month. Some people come just like once a quarter for a little tune up. Um, and sometimes there's suggestions. Some people really love homework and they're like, okay, what do I do now?
mhm,
And so sometimes I'll give them like I have these little sheets that have some chakra info. So we'll talk about maybe what chakras are blocked or experiencing imbalances, and they can kind of take that sheet that has maybe some breath techniques or some yoga poses or different activities that can help bring some attention, awareness, and opening into those spaces within themselves.
Okay. Oh, sounds similar to the therapy process.
Yes, yes. As someone who has participated in both, yeah, it's all really, aligned. It's like you
Mhm,
do some work with someone that can
mhm.
help you, and then you practice it when you're not with that person.
That's the big part, right? The life work to really continue the healing and the wellness. And I think sometimes people want the quick method, like, okay, heal me, fix me. And they don't
Yeah,
want to do the work afterwards. And that's
yeah,
kind of like they want to, what is it, the tummy tuck, the quick like makeover, but like they didn't want to work out to maintain the workout. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's
People are like, "Give me your magic," and I'm like, okay, it's like it's not really my magic. It's your magic, and we're doing this together, and all of it is within them. I'm just kind of there to kind of help you tease those pieces out.
absolutely, absolutely. So tell me, what kind of conditions respond well to Reiki?
I think anything,
Okay.
any type of suffering um can benefit from a Reiki healing session. There's if you give Reiki a little Google search and you look into some of the studies that have been done, Reiki is a complementary therapy to cancer treatments,
Mhm,
to helping people transition um, into the next phase in life, really like any phase in life, but also particularly passing on. A lot of times you have Reiki practitioners that work in hospice. They have medical Reiki practitioners that are set up in cancer centers.
hmm,
Um, babies, you can do Reiki on babies to help them
mhm,
calm down. Um, you know, I find kind of the three main categories of people that come to me are dealing with grief, anxiety, or chronic pain.
okay.
So, if you have surgery and like you're going to physical therapy, you know, part of healing most things is rest.
Mhm.
So, creating a space for someone to come and rest on my table and for me to be able to channel energy in.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's interesting that you bring up the cancer thing. I didn't know about that, but I think that's really interesting to find that there's other methods of healing or supports in place that are not the traditional or conventional, I should say, um, ways of healing. Because I think sometimes we're very limited in our mind or our understanding of what can be done and feeling like there's not other options. I think that's great to know that there are other options that may be outside a little bit outside the box of
Yeah,
what we think is supposed to happen. Uh,
yeah. You know, there is something really powerful about intention, about where we focus our attention, and like if you think about prayer, a lot of times I'll tell people basically you're paying me to pray for you for 90 minutes,
mm,
to discuss what you're looking for, what are you trying to achieve, and I'm sending that through love and through prayer.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and I think recognize I think a big piece that we as people, as humans, are
Yes.
missing is connecting with ourselves, right? Everything we feel like everything is external of us, like that's a outside issue. But yes, it's an outside issue, but it's impacting the inside. And how is it impacting our inside? How is it impacting how we process things, how we see the world, how we handle emotions, how we handle the stress? how is it impacting our health? How is it impacting our sleep, right? That's the first thing we see. Oh, it's impacting my sleep. I can't sleep well. Well, that's a red flag that obviously something needs to be addressed. That the external things that we're tending to try to disconnect from is actually connecting to us, and we have to figure out how to process through it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
and
think
so the awareness of that is big. We need to be aware of that and not keep saying, "Well, yeah, it's gonna get better. It's gonna get better." Because how much stuff can we pile on and still carry it? You know.
yeah. 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 For
So.
sure. It's we're quite um disconnected in general from ourselves, from other humans, really, that there's this perception of connection, I think, via social media and things like that. And I'm not saying that that can't be a space of connection, but if that's our only sense of connection, that causes us to be disconnected from our Mother Earth, from the divine spirit, and from the human to human contact, which like
Mhm,
we need. Like that is how we survive, is by
mhm.
being together.
Yeah, and I can go on a whole tangent of that because that was my whole thesis in my doctoral program, like really talking about the altruism that we lack because of social media and the new generation that is coming. That's all they know. Like they grew up in the social media. Like my generation, we started the
Yep.
social media stuff with MySpace. I'm not gonna age myself,
Yeah,
but
same. Right.
and so we started it, but they have taken it to a whole nother level, and that's all they know how to connect. That's their connection, and they have a lot of problems outside of they have a lot of problems on social media, but they have a lot of problem outside of social media on how to connect and how to have real relationships. So I can go
Yeah.
a whole tangent, like I have a whole set of research on that, but
Yes.
recognizing that this is a big piece of why. So COVID was so hard for a lot of elderly millenniums because yes, we have this piece. This is a annex, like it's an addendum, is added on. It's not the thing, and so when we had to use it as our only form of connection, we saw the rise of anxiety and
Yep.
depression in that age group, coming to therapy like, oh my god, what's going on? I don't know what I'm doing. Like I feel anxious, and you still seeing a residual of that because they did it so long. Now they're like, I don't know how to reconnect. I don't feel like reconnecting. So it just kind of mess up everybody in terms of
Yeah.
that connection piece. And I'm not
Yeah.
sure if you see that in your work as well.
For sure. People are even still just now resurfacing out of their homes to connect. I had a retreat yesterday, a little self-care day retreat, and there's women there that are just like, I still am just like at home with my family doing my thing, and I don't even know what I like to do anymore to go out and enjoy myself.
That's a big thing. I don't know what I'd like to do. Who am I? It's a
Yeah,
lot of self-questioning. And I think there's it's good because it pushes people to kind of think, but it becomes a safety net when they don't want to connect anymore and they feel disconnected, but it's comfortable. It's like that
right.
it's that double-edged sword, right? Like this, I'm comfortable here, but I really don't want to be here. But why not? Because I can
Yeah,
now do everything from home. Like I don't have to go out of my home to get things. I can Amazon things. I can DoorDash things to my house. I don't really need to leave the
yep,
convenience of my home, but I want to. But I don't know what that looks like. So I think there's definitely that ping pong or that back and forth between both sides.
yeah, yeah. I was a little worried when I had quit my job right before the pandemic
Mhm.
and started to build my business, and I was like, "Well, shoot, like we're not supposed to see people or touch people." Um, and maybe some people would turn their nose up at me, but I was seeing clients when it probably wasn't considered safe because people needed other people connection.
Mhm.
People were isolated, and I was actually busy. Like people
Mhm.
were needing support. They were lying down on my
Mhm.
table, and the minute their head hit the table, here came the tears, that they had been holding in, or here come they lay down on the table and they fall asleep immediately because they're exhausted of trying to, like, navigate a new way of being in the world in fear.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you feel like there's a population or maybe someone that should have avoid Reiki? Is there any, or is it open for anyone?
It's open for anyone. I do know that some people prefer to have their Reiki session without the touch, and that's totally fine. You know, as a Reiki practitioner, the energy is there. I mean, we do distance Reiki sessions virtually, but
Mhm.
sometimes I'll just hover the hands over if they prefer not to be touched, or even prefer not to be touched in certain areas. It might be like, okay, I'm okay if you put your hands like on my head or my shoulders, but like once we get down to the legs, like I don't touch my legs, for
Mhm.
whatever reason, and we of course honor that.
Mhm.
um and even, I think I've also seen a lot of people that are nervous about coming because they don't want to sit still. Um, and that's, in that case, like, totally get that. And then we get creative and we'll work into some different practices and work with the nervous system to slowly invite it to slow down to where that person is okay with being still for a bit.
So speaking of being still, so you have to be like totally still. I'm asking for my ADHD folks out there. Um
No, you don't have to be totally still. I tell
okay.
people, you're lying down here. I'm generally quiet most of the time. Sometimes we'll do some communicating in the practice in different ways, but I'm quiet most of the time. But I tell people, like, if you feel like you need to say something, you say something. If you feel like you're not comfortable and you need to move, or you're changing the placement of your arms, like, all good. But part of the practice is being still so
Still.
that you can receive. But that doesn't mean you're like, just like corpse style and
Alright, I'm
and
not
stiff.
there you
Yeah.
go, folks.
Yeah.
You don't you got a little itch, you can scratch your head, 'cause I
Yes.
think that
Yes.
brings anxiety, like, oh my goodness, I remember I had to take my first not get take my first, I had to when I got my first massage, I was like, "Alright, I'm supposed to be relaxed," but, like, if I move my arm with that, so those are it seems silly, but people do have that anxiety of, like,
Yeah,
uncertainty when they're going into something new or trying something
absolutely.
outside of their wheelhouse.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I
okay.
do like to, you know, spend that time beforehand, as we're chatting and connecting, um, to build a sense of relationship. If I don't already have a relationship, and most clients I get already know me through a
Mhm,
yoga class, or in some other realm of life. But for my brand new people who I've never met, I like to spend that time so that we can build that sense of trust. And I
mhm,
think that helps people um start to already kind of soften and be able to be okay with being a little bit still. And then
absolutely.
sometimes not, and I'm like, and they're like that, and I'm like, "Okay, they're not ready to lay down, and let's step over here to the yoga mat." Shit, I've had people, "Let's go for a walk outside in my yard," like, whatever needs to happen, like, I just meet the person as they are, and we work it out.
All right, so let's kind of jump in, switch gears a little bit, and kind of talk about restorative yoga. Like, I'm really interested in this. I've had colleagues do it. Now, I'm going to be honest, I've tried. my experience with yoga was very traumatic. And the only why I say that is because I was kind of forced into a yoga class in undergrad as a course that we had to take because the class that I wanted to take was full. And they kind of put me in here. And at the time, I didn't know anything about yoga. I was like, y'all want me to sit still for 60 minutes in this class, and that's my grade? It sounds easy, but at the time I was not ready. So I've done yoga, like the easy stuff, like, yoga poses and that kind of thing, kind of strengthening my core and things, but never took a yoga class. But then I heard about this thing called restorative yoga, and I was like, sounds interesting. I want to know more. And then I found out that you did it through a colleague of mine. So tell me, what exactly is restorative yoga?
So, I'll say similar to Reiki, I think restorative yoga is healing, it's love, and it's magic.
Magic. Okay.
Um, what we're really up to in the practice of restorative yoga is we're working with the nervous system. You know, our bodies um, are often going and going and going and going, and we don't take the time to be still. And because we don't take the time to be still, people don't know how to be still.
Mm.
So it's a practice of doing nothing. It's
Ooh,
a practice, yes, which can sound quite exciting to some and quite terrifying to others.
like now, who was the terrifying part? I have a hard time sitting still. Not because I'm not the anxiety. It's just like my brain is constantly going because I'm
Yeah.
always all those boxes are open all at the same
Yep.
time. So
Yep.
that's why I was interested. I was like, oh, okay. So this teach me, and I could do mindfulness. I could do it for a blip, but like a whole 60 minutes, y'all really help asking me to commit a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I was really interested about this, because I think recognizing that, again, that connection, right? You're always going, you're always trying to deal with stuff and move and move and move, and being still. And I think a person that deals with trauma, or a person that deals with anxiety, or they deal with depression, the idea of just being is so uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. We are not a culture that is accustomed to like being bored.
Hmm.
We have so much to do all the time. So many of us have so many roles to show up for in life. And that's why we're sick a lot of the times, because we don't
Hmm.
take the time to let our body shift into the healing mode.
Hmm.
Um, we so in restorative yoga, we create the space to allow the body to be supported. You have someone holding the space for you. If you're practicing in a group or you're practicing in a one-on-one led by a teacher, to really create the ideal conditions for you to be able to rest so that we
Hmm.
can practice resting. And it takes time. So you get to witness your body's process of relaxing. You get to notice that you're anxious. You get to notice that you are agitated and you can't sit still. And then you stay with that, and you stay with it, and you stay with it. We hold shapes for, I like to teach about 15 minutes in a shape, because in my studies, I've learned that it takes the average person about 7 minutes for their nervous system to be able to walk itself down from the sympathetic nervous system, our go go go, fight or flight, to the parasympathetic, our rest and digest system. So because it takes time, and I think 7 minutes is probably under ideal conditions. If you're, coming from a long commute, or unwinding from a stressful week at work, or you're dealing with any kind of, just like extreme situation, probably even longer than 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And once our body shifts into that space, you're kind of in this little in-between state. A lot of the readings I do, people call it the liminal space. You're kind of in
Okay.
that space between asleep and awake. And you might hear sounds and things like that, but you're not responding to them. A lot of times people will be like, they'll tell me afterwards, they'll be like, I was thinking, am I sleeping? I can't be sleeping because I can hear Carrie's voice and I can hear the sirens outside, but I don't care that any of that is happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because your body shifts into this state of being so that it can heal. It helps us return back to homeostasis.
It is interesting that you say that, and this is because I'm going to equate this to something that probably has, I don't know. So when I get a massage, I usually try to do a 90 minutes, because 60 minutes for me, my brain has not shut down fast
Yes.
enough, long enough for me to enjoy it. But there's a time in the process that I fall asleep and don't realize I fall asleep. I've been told that I snore. Okay, guys, I'm being vulnerable here. I've been told that I snore, and I'm like, I was asleep. I didn't know, and I think because it was just that moment of just being, and it wasn't like I wasn't like, oh yeah, I got a good night rest. It was kind of like my body finally rest, relax, and I don't know how long it's for, but I think it's that is what you're talking about. Is that in between? It's like there's things going on because still hear the person moving around. I still feel them touching me,
Yep.
all of that, but for some reason I'm no longer present, like, in terms of like the thoughts and the worries and all the
Yep.
things that I bring to the table. So
Yes.
is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yes, yes. I think, there's this space in between where we drop out of linear time. You know, you people will be like, "Oh, the class is over? That was an hour?" Like, it felt like it was like that, or it felt like it was like 3 hours, or they're like, "I don't even know how long that was," because yeah,
Mhm.
you drop into this space where you don't need to know about what was happening before, and you're not worried about what's happening next. You really are in this space of being.
Hmm.
And 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 we talked about connection before. I think this culture, this grind culture, and our capitalistic systems have made so many of us like think that we always have to be doing to be successful, to have enough of whatever we want. We just have to be
Mhm.
doing, doing, doing. It's almost like glorified to be busy. Um, and I'm just kind of over that, and I just wanna
Me too.
glorify rest and naps and relaxing and being with people in community instead of just working and living in front of the computer and answering the emails.
Absolutely, and I think the culture itself has been that way, and I think with COVID, that shifted a lot of people's mentality of this go go go, and recognizing how much time they're losing, how much life they're losing by being constantly on the grind. And that's why I think for me, a big shift has happened, even for myself. Like, yeah, I don't want to be working all those hours. I want to work as minimum and still be able to do what I need to do, but enjoy life. If I'm spending majority of my life working, doing blah blah, being busy, how much time am I spending on being present, like really
Yeah,
enjoying, having this lovely little boy that I get to raise and see grow. Like, if I'm always working, you know, I love my parents dearly, but that's what they did. They work, 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 work. And I was at the
same.
babysitters. And that was the life that we lived. I had a great life, don't get me wrong, but now I'm like, I could still have a great life and not do all of that. Because you're
Yes.
supposed to learn, you're supposed to grow. And I think, like I said, with COVID, people recognize, oh, I don't have to do all of this and still make a living. Like I could make a living and still have a life. Like I don't have to work to have a life. I can live to have a life. You know what I mean? Like I can live
Yes.
my life to be able to really live. Um, if that makes sense, it makes sense in my brain.
Yes, it makes sense to me for
Outside of me.
sure.
So I think noticing that, and even in this new generation, recognize I don't have to work 40 hours to make a living. Like they understand rest. I think they're understanding like what that looks like, what that should feel like. We older folks are trying to catch up with this new mentality and mindset. And I think holistically, we have to think about it that way. A lot of my clients are coming in and they're like, I hate my job. I hate this. I hate that. I'm like, all right, what are you going to do about it? What we're going to do about it? What are you going to change? And a lot of them are going into the entrepreneurship world because they want to have a say on when they rest. They want to have a
Yeah,
say on, if somebody holding it like, oh, you can't take off, you know, why have vacation time if you can't rest when you want to rest, right? So I think, again, that's a
yeah.
whole nother podcast.
Totally.
Tune in.
Totally.
But
You can
I
invite me to that one too.
recognizing that we have to take care of ourselves. We got to do the things that we feel are true to ourselves and not true to somebody else. So I think
Yeah.
that's a big piece of
And
that as well.
Janine, restorative yoga, I think gives the space for people to even consider that
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times, you know, I think we talk about like going outside of our comfort zones so much in this culture of like, oh, and I think there is a time and place for that for sure. And also, so many people I work with don't even know what comfortable feels like.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think before you even go out of your comfort zone, you have to know how to cultivate this sense of safety and comfort within yourself,
Mm-hmm.
um, and know the conditions that can help support that. So, people get to experience what it feels like to be cared for. Some people's favorite part of practice is when I come around and cover them up with a blanket, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like, who knew how comforting that could feel?"
Mm-hmm.
Or, I'll sit back as I've guided people into these shapes, and I'll kind of scan the room, and then I've got some sweet soul who thinks that they're comfortable, but like their heads all like they're like, "Yeah, I got the blanket under my head. I'm good." And I'm like, "Could I try something else? If you like how it was, we can put it back."
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll like adjust the blanket a little bit. I'll kind of tuck it in the sides of their neck, and then they go, "Ah." And I'm like, "That's comfort."
Yeah.
And then you sit in that space, and when you give yourself the time and space to just be, you kind of start to get some messages.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you
Quiet
get
the noise.
Yeah, you get the messages from the earth that you're resting on. You get the messages from the divine, from your ancestors. Like, oh, I have this one woman that's been coming to my classes, and she keeps sharing these insights that she's getting, and she's like, it's like, you know my ancestor people are coming through, letting her know that it's okay. She's getting these messages of like, you're on the right track, keep going. And I'm just like, tell me more. Like, I always love to hear what people's experiences are, and they're different. Sometimes it can feel like a day at the spa. You can
Mm-hmm.
leave feeling so refreshed and rejuvenated, and then sometimes it can feel like a day in hell, being alone
Mm-hmm.
with your thoughts in the quiet. But you get to witness that, and you get to witness how your thoughts shift and move and come and go, and you can start to deeper connect with the wave of life as our struggles come and they go and they come and they go.
Mm-hmm.
Through
Mm-hmm.
human experience.
Absolutely. So the shapes that you're talking about, although the props that they
Yeah.
use. Okay.
Yeah, so that's like one of the major keys of restorative yoga is like there are props. And
Okay.
you don't have to have all the fancy props that we have in the yoga studios. You can use your pillows and your blankets and your couch cushions and your chairs and your ottomans at home.
Mm-hmm.
But the key is to really create a sense of support for the body to feel safe. Again, we're working with the nervous system, and the nervous
Mm-hmm.
system wants to feel this sense of safety.
Gotcha. Ooh, I might need to sign up because I need some rest.
Yes, yes.
Well, Carrie, thank you so much for coming out or coming and joining us in the discussion on Getting Rooted podcast. Where can my followers and subscribers get more information about you, your services, and your upcoming events?
Yeah, so my website is selfcarewithcarrie.com, and all together, no hyphens or anything. And you can find me also on Instagram and Facebook, Self Care with Carrie. And yeah, you can check out my one-on-one services I offer in person or virtually. You can check out my retreats that I have coming up. I do day retreats and weekend retreats, which is just kind of like adult sleepover camp. And we rest and eat a lot. And I have a new virtual offering that you can also find on my website. It's called the Self-Care Yoga Bundle, and it's practices to kind of meet you wherever you are. And we do some breath work, we do some movement, and we do some resting. And it's really accessible for most people. So
Awesome. I'm excited about all the information you gave us today and all the things that you got coming up. Any retreats coming up in March or well, we're in March,
yeah,
so
so
April.
my next weekend retreat is local in Brunswick, Maryland area, and it's May 12th through 14th.
Okay.
And yeah, I still have got some spots left. You can get an individual room, or you can share a room with random roommates, or if you want to bring a group of people, you can pick your roommates too.
That's awesome. That'd be a great Mother's Day gift, guys.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, thank you so much, Carrie. And folks, make sure that you follow our podcast where all podcasts are streamed. Check out my blogs at Getting Rooted for more information on this topic and many other topics. Follow me on Facebook at Getting Rooted 23 and on IG at Getting_Rooted, as well on TikTok at Getting Rooted. Join the conversation. My favorite part of this is participating in the great conversations that happen on social media and in our comment section. So don't forget to let us know you were listening. I invite you to answer this week's questions in the comments on Facebook and IG. See you next time. And remember that here at Getting Rooted, we reclaim our own truth and embrace destiny. Be well.